What's good, grinders? Bro, it's been so long. It's been so long, and I'm not even gonna sit here and apologize. I'm apologize. So anyway, it's been a while. It's been a long time since I actually posted on this channel, but your boy been out here grinding. And to be honest with you, the way YouTube works, you know what I mean? It's like you got to put all this content out, right? And then you just hope and pray that somebody watches this. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm just like, well, I can just go make some money on this side, blah 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 blah. But now it's more like a need to, if that makes sense. You know, I need to create. So like now, I'm gonna try my best, guys. Don't quote me on this, but I'm trying my best to be consistent. So that being said, bro, we gonna do this little reaction video real quick. You know, my man Charlie Kirk, dude's a freaking legend. He's a beast. I like him because he's logical. He's super smart. Obviously, he's a super smart guy. But he also be saying some good shit. Like, you know, let's call it spade a spade. He also be saying some good shit. So that being said, let's go ahead and kick this goddamn pig. All right, so the video that we're going to be responding to is actually a good topic, right? They're going off of basically like the double standards of, you know, black people, white people, reparations, thing like that. And then Charlie Kirk said some gangster stuff. Like at the end of the day, he said some gangster stuff like a colorless America, bro, a colorless America. Fun fact, you guys know that we're literally the only people, like if you go to another country, people don't see you as a black American, white American, anything like that. They literally just see you as America. But in America, quick to look at color. So it'd be great to get a colorless goddamn America, but we'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead and get it in.
Your thoughts about reparations for black people specifically, and like black Americans specifically. What is your
very much against?
Very much against. Can I ask why?
Well, first and foremost, I don't believe that we should ever pay monetary damages to people where nothing bad happened to them, just because they are related to a group of people where something bad happened to them. Okay. So because it separates the idea. Let me just finish, and then I'll throw it back to you. Absolutely. Our justice system, when properly understood, is about individuals receiving justice, not tribes or groups receiving justice.
True.
Also, I want to state that just because I am a black man, I do not speak for all black people. So I'm just this.
I like this guy. You should give it up for him.
Just want to state that for the record. I'm speaking for myself. All right. So definitely hear you on that. And even for me, when it comes to reparations, for me personally, I don't believe that it should be a check. I think that reparations can look like many different things, whether it's like investment in institutions, you know, more like, you know, better schools, hospitals, all that kind of stuff. So my question to you is like, so since you are against reparations, would you say that we should be would you be for outlawing like inherited wealth? Does that make sense?
Well, no, I'm not for outlawing that. And those are two different things.
Can I explain my point though? All right, so my point to that is that, okay, so what I hear for the argument against reparations is that, okay, black people today, obviously we weren't there, you know, for slavery, segregation, all of that kind of stuff. So we've done nothing to deserve that, because all the people who should have gotten it, actually not even probably, who should have gotten it are, you know, either long gone or whatever. Now there's still some who are still with us today, but that's a conversation for another day. But my point is that, so inheritance and inherited wealth is something that, you know, the great grandfather, whatever, is passed down. Homeboy who is here today did nothing to deserve that multi-billion-dollar business, but he gets it because of his bloodline. Correct? Is that how it?
Yeah. I mean,
so basically, the dude just said like. The first question that was asked was, he asked him about reparations. He asked Charlie Kirk about reparations. What are you thinking? And Charlie Kirk said that he shouldn't, you know, he don't believe in reparations. Now he's basically saying, should you outlaw basically inherit income? So, you know, your great-grandfather did whatever he needs to do, and then, you know, should that money be outlawed? In other words, let's balance it. In other words, so you're not going to give reparations to black people because, you know, it didn't happen back then. But then at the same time, which is a pretty decent point, you have white people that has inherited money from, you know, back then, and that money's just kind of like trickling down the bloodline. So that's where we're at right now. And I'll let Charlie go, and then I'll go ahead and give like a logical breakdown of that.
That's how inheritance works, right?
Yeah, no, like Bronny James is going to get $1 billion.
Right, yeah.
You're
Oh,
right.
I mean, yeah, sorry. Great example. So what I'm saying is that, like, I guess what I'm trying to say is that, like, I believe that reparations in and of itself, one, I don't think that the argument is formed right, and two, I believe that, you know, it's kind of a reverse inheritance, if that makes sense, where it's like where it's like, you know, yes, black people's, like, me personally, yes, I did not have to suffer through Jim Crow, slavery, or whatever, but all those choices that were made in those times have, like, gotten necessarily me to where I'm at now.
Got it. So let me tell you where we have a difference of opinion.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay?
So I'm gonna let Charlie go. So once again, it's a valid point, and I can understand, like, from a how can I say this, from a just perspective of how that would be, you know, a valid point. You know, hey, these guys got rich. I'm gonna try my best to take the color out of it. These guys got rich a long time ago, but these guys wasn't able to get rich because they was held back. So because you're not gonna give money to these guys, why should these guys keep trickling down? Now, that is very hard to say, but because, like, at the end of the day, I personally agree with Charlie Kirk with the reparations. You know what I mean? Like, it's really hard to pinpoint who was actually affected by slavery. You know what I mean? So it's just like, hey, where in your bloodline were you actually affected by slavery? And that goes on both ways, right? So let's just say you have a regular guy, John. So you ask him, it's like, hey, did your parents benefit? Well, did your parents benefit from slavery? Is like, I don't know. You know, so it's kind of weird on both sides on how to actually get that stuff going. So we'll see.
So let me tell you where we have a difference of opinion.
Okay, absolutely.
Okay? So we as conservatives tend to underemphasize this idea of many legacies of suffering. Whereas people on the left, not saying you're on the left, but the other perspective.
Definitely not.
No, for sure. But that's fine. No, that's fine. Let's just say the other side of the argument tend to emphasize that you are stuck because of something that happened to you many generations prior. We believe, absent very unique circumstances in the United States of America, that is almost never true. For example, we think every individual should be judged by their own actions, their own character, and their agency. Now, let's play this out, though.
So he's actually saying some really good stuff. Like, for what he just said, he's like, you know, certain people believe in, you know, being stuck, you know, and it's like, hey, now suck. This stuff happened a long time ago, but yet we're still affected by that. Now, me personally, I can't speak on anybody else, but me personally, I don't necessarily believe in that. I believe in, hey, Terrence needed to grind. Terrence needs to do this. Terrence needs to do this. I don't believe in being stuck. I don't necessarily believe in the victim mindset. Now, I understand over a long period of time how that could come off. You know, hey, bro, we're not on the same starting line. But to be honest with you, in 2025, it's more or less like, hey, bro, we're like, my two things is like, what do you actually want to do, right? And what are you willing to do to get that? And if you answer those two questions without any biases, you kind of set yourself up for success. You see what I'm saying? Like, you can't just say, hey, I want to be a track star, but I can't go run track because I'm black and I've been held back. It doesn't necessarily make sense. And that's the same concept when it comes to money. Hey, I want to be a millionaire, but I can't be a millionaire because of my skin color and I'm being held back. It's like, you can be a millionaire, you just got to figure out how to actually get there. You know what I mean? Once again, I'm not trying to say that the race is even. It's not even, you know, so to speak. It's not even depending on where you grew up. But that's a whole nother conversation, because that's more or less cause effect. And I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but that's more or less like how your parents actually set you up. Not how they were set up, how your parents was actually set up.
Play this out, though. You're acting as if, not you, but let's say the argument, because you're coming after this in a great way, there's been like no money sent Black America the last 60 years. We have spent over $25 trillion on Black America in 60 years, and Black America's poorer than before we started. We're talking about Medicaid, food stamps, we're talking about schools, public housing. The issue is not the amount of money. The issue has instead been a couple things. Number one, it's been the downfall of the black family. And unfortunately,
yes, I agree with that.
Yeah, the more money we've spent on this, we've seen the downfall of the black family. Just some numbers super quick. Is that in 1964, right before the passage of the Civil Rights Act, 75% of black youth had a dad around. Now it's 25%. So,
all right, and this is where people start losing their minds when you come to it like as emotions. Now, listen to what he just said, right? Now, he took into account everything that happened back then. Slavery, all that stuff, Jim Crow, all that stuff like that. And like he said, money was given to the black community to build. And yet the black community is not where it needs to be. So what's the problem? Clearly, it cannot be the money. So in other words, we wasn't allowed to make money. Oops, sorry. Here goes the money. Let's see if we can make something shake. Cool. And he's saying, obviously that's not the case. So it goes back into the point that I was gonna make earlier. Was like, when are individuals, because I don't want to just say black people, you know what I mean? That's kind of when are individuals gonna take accountability to, you know what, I can control my own destiny. What I mean by that, okay, he just talked about the father in the household. Cool. Me personally, my dad, my real dad, was not in my life. My pop was, my stepdad was, and I had a great uncle. I had my Uncle Harold. I had a great uncle. So I had two male influences that was like really good up my bringing, right? Cool. Now, granted, it wasn't my real dad. Now watch this, right? I have 3 kids. I have 2 biological children and then 1 stepchild. 3 kids all together, right? I've been here since day 1. I've been in my kids' life since day 1. I've set my kids up since day 1. I've been making money enough to where I'm not unselfish money, where I've been putting money to the side just for them. So if you think about it, I technically broke the cycle. I've been in my kids' life since day 1, and I also been grinding, but I've been grinding smartly and unselfishly to the point where they are set up. So they can't even say, oh, I'm a mixed breed, I'm this, is one. No, sir, you can't say that at all. Not in this household, because my kids, and I tell them this, you can literally go do whatever you want to do. If you want to go to college, go to college. If you want to go to the military, go to the military. If you want to do X, Y, Z, go do it. Whatever you want to do, Pop already got that. I already set you up for that. So that's what I mean by breaking the cycle. Now, if you take the emotions out of it, right? Let's just say 1 million people watch this video. You know, I'm gonna go get my 13. Ha! Shout out to my 13. But, let's say they watch it, and then these people start, man, he's really saying some good stuff. And they start breaking that cycle. Let me go be in my kid's life. Let me start grinding so I can start grinding for my actual kids. You see what I'm saying? Like, the cycle starts to break. So it's not necessarily, hey, a handout to money. Hey, government, give me money. It's more or less like, hey, I'll take a little accountability. I can do what I need to do. Let me go and do that.
So only 25%. So 1 in 4 kids have a dad around. Black dads are no longer a big part of young kids' life. It's a very big problem that has huge ramifications. Mm-hmm. Then finally, on the reparations argument, that comes into just more like concrete questions. Where do you draw the line? Who defines it? And also, why would you tax, for example, somebody like me? My ancestors fought on the Union side of the Civil War, so I got to go pay more money, even though my ancestors did the right thing. No offense if you guys fought for the Confederacy. That's not trying to, drum up any, it's all good. We're all Americans now. I'm not. Why should I have to then go pay for something that my ancestors did correctly? Finally, it's like, how do you prove it? Prove it like. This is not your argument, but it's a hilarious contradiction. The very same people who tell you that voter ID is racist want all of a sudden Black America to prove that they're the descendants of slaves 7 generations ago.
So he had a great point right there. Like, he had a really great point right there. At the end of the day, how can you prove, like I said earlier, who was actually affected by this stuff? Now, as a whole, you can always say, yeah, we, depending on your skin color, we were affected. But how can you prove that? And same thing like he just said, like, so you gonna tax me, my boy? Like, you gonna tax me? And I didn't do nothing. My parents didn't do nothing. They didn't, blah, 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 didn't do nothing. So it gets kind of weird. You know what I mean? It gets kind of weird when you actually start doing that stuff. But at the same time, a logical approach would be like, hey, you know what I mean? Let's start getting these fathers back into the life. Let's start teaching that, because my mom always told me, quote unquote, you get that girl pregnant, you are going to marry her. That's what my mom told me my whole life. And that's exactly what I did. I got her pregnant and I married her. Now, it didn't work out. That's a whole different story. But I'm still in my kid's life. My kids live with me. No big deal. We're not here to talk about that, but I'm just saying, bro, this is the kind of stuff you got to start thinking about.
Like, let me go get my paperwork together. I thought it's racist to ask people for their paperwork. Anyway, the whole thing's crazy.
Yeah.
But here's the more important thing that I think we can agree on.
Okay.
That we should have a opportunity colorblind compact. We need to have school choice in this country so kids can go to better schools. And
So the stuff that he's about to say right now, he's about to actually this should be what America is about to be. This should be the presidential speech that he's about to give, right? So he literally just started off by saying, hey, a colorless America. Once again, you are American, I'm American, we all American, we all going through the same stuff, you know what I mean? There's no such thing as black, there's no such thing as white, there's no such thing as Mexican, there's no such thing as any of that. It's all, hey, you are a citizen of America, congratulations, you are American. Have your brothers back and go from there. And now he's about to actually say some solutions. He already said, school choice, that's a big one, because people complain, in one of those things, it's like, hey, I live in the hood. And this is facts. I live in the hood, which means technically, depending on what state I live in, I gotta go to a hood school. You see what I'm saying? But at the same time, let's just say, for instance, they got a person that's like, they have the intellect to be going to another school. They can't even have that opportunity. That's another argument. They can't even have that opportunity to succeed at that level, I should say. But at the same time, we'll talk about it in a little bit, but no matter what school you go to, you still should do your best to try to get that education up.
have more mobility. Number 2, reconstitute the black family. And finally, this is one that you might agree on because you're not a liberal, is that we need to no longer import foreigners that are going to undercut the wages of workers of all races, especially black Americans.
I agree.
Okay, so he just threw that one in there. He literally just threw that one in there. Hey, we got a lot of people we importing over here. They take their jobs. He just put that one in there. The first 2 was legit. The third one, yeah. I don't necessarily agree with the third one, with the fourth. Now, at the same time, once again, that's a topic for another day. But we do have an immigration problem. I'm not saying that's the problem why, certain people can't come up in life. I'm just saying, factually, Americans have an immigration problem. Like I said, he just threw that one in there. I'm a logical person. You know what I mean? That's what Charlie just did. I'm gonna just throw that in there. I'm like, I'm not gonna pick a side, but just to say, you know what I mean? I'm not picking a side, but yeah.
And so what we've done is we imported Nicaraguans and Guatemalans to come take low-wage labor, and we didn't want to pay our own Americans those jobs. So final thoughts on those points.
Also, great points. I would say that I am with you for the idea of a colorblind society. I think that it's a bit of a farce to say that colorblind society is something we should aspire to, but I think it's a farce to think that it doesn't exist, that race doesn't play a factor. I totally agree. Okay, and so
I will say it plays far less of a factor 10 years ago. It's playing more of a factor today.
Yes, I agree.
In a negative way.
Yes, I 100%.
They both agree, and this is what I believe. Well, first of all, this is why I believe America is so great. And then this is what I believe America actually needs. We need to come to the table and actually have these type of conversations, right? Because America was built on hatred and ignorance, right? That's just my beliefs, hatred and ignorance. But that same hatred and ignorance still exists today, right? And the only way you can get over that hump is to have an actual good faith conversation. Good faith conversation, You can't go into the conversation as a victim. You know what I mean? You can't go into the conversation as a victim. You have to go into the actual conversation. In other words, if I see a guy that's have more money than me, right? Am I gonna look at that guy and say, you know what? He has more money than me because of his skin color? No. Me personally, I'm gonna say, what is he doing that I'm not doing? And me personally, this is just me personally, I'm gonna go ask that dude, hey bro, what are you doing? Can you put me up on game? Because I need it. I need it. You know what I mean? You got it. I want it. I need it. Let's put it.
I mean, I think you had mentioned something about DEI earlier, and I was for sure, the way I agree with DEI in principle, but I think the way it's been instituted by our government and all the other institutions is completely wrong. So, because for me, it's not about seeing color, it's how you treat color. Does that make sense?
Great point right there. And that's another thing that I think, DEI has a great principle, but I personally believe it's overcorrecting. It's definitely like overcorrecting. And it's to the point where it's like, hey, we need 20 black people in here. But then you mess up the merit of the conversation. Let's just say you have an engineer. You have somebody that's engineering. It's like, you know what? We're hiring 30 engineers. Out of those 30, 15 has to be black. But, just in case, what scenario is like, what if somebody else is better than them? You know what I mean? I think it should be a fair thing. You have the opportunity to apply, you have the opportunity to this. I understand the argument is going to be, oh, well, even if they apply, they're black, so as soon as they see the name, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, that's not how most people think. Most people, right? That's not how most people think. At the end of the day, most people look at me, I have my own business, right? So if I need somebody that's going to like literally be doing specialized stuff, I'm going for the best person. Because I don't care if you're black, I don't care if you're a woman, I don't care. Hey, I need you to do this. And if you can't do that, we don't need to be talking. See what I'm saying? So it becomes a merit. So I do appreciate what he actually said right there.
Everyone's going to see color. And
exactly,
you're right.
yeah,
and so it's an ideal that is admirable, being colorblind.
Right.
The problem with what we were promised with the Civil Rights Act, we were promised a colorblind society. We now have a color-obsessed society. And it's a breakdown of that promise. Instead, the country I grew up in, at least, was like, yeah, you're black, but it doesn't matter. It's not the most important thing. Instead, it's, are you a good person? How do you act? How do you treat other people? Are you a Christian? Like, what is your worldview? I want to get back to that. Of course, we're still going to see differences, but I want to de-emphasize them to a place where we look at each other as fellow human beings and fellow American citizens. Thank you so much,
Absolutely
man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
And right there is where, once again, the crowd should have went wild. The crowd should have went wild. Like he said from the beginning, no matter what, because we are programmed that way, you're gonna see color. Even kids, think about I'm talking about like 3-year-olds, right? They can look at another person and be like, oh, he's different, right? But here's the kicker. You as an adult, you have to say, yeah, he's different, but he's literally the same. You see what I'm saying? He looks different from you, but that doesn't mean that you're better than him. It doesn't mean that he's better than you, blah, 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 blah. Once again, you don't have to, that hatred and ignorance, that stuff is taught. So a colorblind America, I mean, it would be great if we actually had a colorblind America, you know what I mean? And if people can come and actually have good faith conversations, just like how they have, nobody's yelling at each other. You say your points, I say my points, and then at the end of the day, believe it or not, we kind of agree on certain points, you know what I mean? That's how you build a better society, you know what I mean? It has nothing to do with color. Like he said, you're gonna see color, cool, you're gonna see it. Yeah, bro, you're gonna see it. Okay, bro, that's a black dude, that's a white dude, cool, you gonna see it, but that has nothing to do with merit. Like he said earlier, start asking those questions. Are you a good person? You know what I mean? Are you a good person? Are you even qualified for this job? However you want to look at it and stuff like that. But that's how I see it. I believe America should be colorblind. I mean, I got this whole take on how you can do that. But once again, that's a conversation. Cause your boy be thinking about some stuff. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying, I be thinking about some stuff. I know how to put some things in action. Obviously, I don't have that power, but it'd be hilarious if I had that power. But anyway, colorblind America is something that we can hope and pray for, and then we can see if that happens. Will it? Nah. Should it? Absolutely. But once again, it comes down to what are you teaching your actual kids? How are you setting your kids up? Because if you are setting your kids up with hatred and ignorance, they're gonna grow up to they're gonna grow up to have hatred and ignorance. If you set your kids up to be financially stable, they're gonna grow up financially stable. To me, it's not necessarily the government, so to speak, right? It's literally how you are raised in that household. The choices that you make in life always comes back. Because at the end of the day, if you really think about it, and I'm about to end this video, if you think about it, black people have the opportunity to make money the same as white people. If you think about it, just really, really think about what I just said. You have the opportunity. It comes down to choices and trade-offs. What are you actually doing to make that money? Just saying. At the end of the day, guys, this is my take I still think Charlie Kirk is amazing. I think the dude is amazing intellect-wise, and he be saying some stuff. He's not rude. You know, he's very smart. I can appreciate that. He welcomes all types of debates. Can appreciate that. You know, even though he still has his beliefs, he still welcomes all types of debates. Absolutely love that. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, you know what I mean? It all comes down to two things. You grind and you prosper.